Hello friends, in this video we are going to see about the functions. Not all the functions but some of the commonly using predefined functions. Functions are of two types, predefined function and user-defined function. What do you mean by predefined function? Predefined function means the functions are already defined. So there are some functions which are already defined, which are already created by the vendor of the programming language. So such functions are called predefined functions. You can directly use these functions. You need not have to write or you need not have to define this function. You can directly call the function. But user-defined functions are defined by us. The user or we are the creator of this user-defined function. Such functions are called user-defined functions. Now, in this video, we are going to see some of the most commonly using predefined function. Print, int function, input function, id function, type function, exit function, quit function. Now, all the functions have this open bracket and closing bracket. So, whenever you see this open bracket and closing bracket, you must understand that this is a function. Even predefined function and user-defined functions have this open bracket and closing bracket. What is a print function? Print function we have already discussed in the previous video, but I'll explain in brief. Suppose if you want to display a message in the output screen, then you can go for this print function. So after doing calculations, you have to display the answer in the output screen. So for that, you should use the print function to display the answers. Now, what is the int function? Let's see this example. Here, num1 is a variable. Num1 equal to int, we are starting the function, and input, we are starting another function. In double quotes, enter your age. So if it is written in double quotes, which means this is a message. So this message will be displayed in the output screen. So it asks the user to enter your age. So age is a number, right? So we need this age for sometimes to calculate he or she is eligible to vote, or for some calculations we need this number, age. So this should be in a number format. But Python cannot directly accept something as a number, a value as a number. So what it do is it has a function called input function. So the first input function read the number, then convert that number into integer. You know what is an integer, right? So integer in mathematics, integers means negative numbers and positive numbers including zeros. Like that, int here is also same, negative numbers, zero and positive numbers. So when you see this message, you will enter. Suppose if your age is 18. So that 18 is read by the input function as a string. Input function can only read the value as a string. So input function read that number 18 as a string. String means like this, 18 in double quotes. Then it is passed to the int function. Int function convert the string into a number, that is 18. After that, store it in the variable num1. Okay, so what is the use of int function? Int function is used to convert a string into a number. For example, if you want to add two numbers, num1 and num2, and if you are going to accept these two numbers from the user, then you should use int of input, enter the first number, then int of input, enter the second number, so that the first number is read by the input function as a string and convert that number into an integer and finally store that number in the variable num1. But suppose if you want to accept a name, name is not a number. Our name is not a number, it's a string. So Int is not needed in that case. You need only the input. Enter your name. Suppose your name is John. So John is read by the input function John, 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 and store the John directly in the variable name. So here in this particular case, you don't need the int function. You need only input function. So that is the difference between int function and input function. Int function is used to convert a string into an integer. Input function reads the value as a string. So for reading a number also, you have to use the input function because we have only one function to read the value. To read the value. Okay. So suppose we can use float also. Float function, and we have eval function also. Eval function. So eval function will see here it will read convert it into an integer value. It will not convert into float. It will convert it into an integer value. But eval function is for all. It will convert into int. It will convert into float. Okay, so it is used for common purpose, not any specified value like it should be a whole number or not like that. Now, next function is id function. Id means, for example, a is equals to 10. So here a is a variable. Variable means the name of the memory location. So all memory locations have an address. Hmm? So if I want to know what is the address of a, so I can use id function, write a equals to write a. Okay, so I'll show you here in the shell window. I'm writing a equal to 10. Then I press enter. Then print id function id a. So this is the address of the memory location with the name a. Like all variables have the memory location. Like in the system memory, millions of memory locations are there. And out of that, you have choose one memory location. And that is the name of that memory location is A, and it is stored with the value 10. So what is the address of that memory location? If you want to know the address of the memory location, then you can use the function id. So for example, if b equals to 20. Now if you want to know the id of b, then write id function b. This is the memory location of, or the memory address of the variable b. Now, next is the type function. So like, a is stored with the value 10. So 10 is an integer. So the type of a is int. So like, see this. Type a. See, the type is written here. Class int. That means the type of the variable a is int. Suppose if I am writing C equals to John. John. Now, type C. The type is str. Str means string. So, if I'm storing a variable with a number, then the type of the variable is integer. If I am storing a variable with the name Harsh. So the name of the variable is Harsh. So the type of the value stored in the variable is Harsh. So the type of the variable is string. So the type depend on the value which you are storing in the variable. If you are storing a number, then the type of the variable is integer. If you are storing a string, then the type of the variable is string. We'll see all these types in detail in our next video. But just understand that if you want to see the type of the variable, you can use this function, the type function. Then the exit function. Exit function is to quit from the shell window or from the idle. So if I write here exit function and press enter, the idle will ask you, your program is still running. Do you want to kill it? If you want to stop this idle, then you press OK. Then it will exit. Okay, so it exited. Now, quit function also do the same. It will also ask us to whether to stop this program or whether to quit this idle. Next is the float. Float is also a data type. For example, if you are storing a is equals to, if you want to store a equals to 10.10 with a decimal value, then you have to use float function. For example, num is equals to float bracket input, enter your weight. So weight is actually, it may not be always a whole number. So sometimes the weight is like 52.35. So you will be entering 52.35. So this is actually first read by the input function, but input function will read it as a string. So it will pass this value to the float function. Float function will convert this into a floating value, that is 52.35. From a string value, it converts it into float value with a decimal. So float value will keep the decimal. It will not erase the decimal part. But the problem with the int function is, if even if you are writing 18.35 or 65, the int function will erase the decimal part. It will only keep the whole number part. Now store the value in the variable num. Eval function means instead of float, here you can use eval function. Eval function is like in function or float function. It can accept all the values. Eval of input of enter your weight. If you're not specific, like you want float or you want whole number only, then you can use the eval function. Eval function will go with everything, but it's a number. It converts the string into a number and store that number in a variable. So these are the most commonly using functions. Print function is used to print a message. In function is used to convert a string into an integer, that is into a number. Integers mean positive and negative values including 0. So int function will convert a number which is a string into an integer value, into a number value. Now, input function is used to read the value from the user, to get the value from the user. ID is to get the address of the variable. Type function is to know the type of the variable, whether it's an integer type, it's a string type, floating type, none type, different types are there that we'll see. Exit and quit functions are to exit from the idle. Float is to convert or to read the function to convert that string into a floating value. And eval function is to read it as a number, to convert that into a number. So these are the commonly using functions in Python. So I hope this video is clear for you. Thank you. Keep watching.